Welcome to public hearing Tuesday, December 8th, 2015, 9:30 a.m. Could I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Tedesco?
Here.
Commissioner O'Dorisio?
Here.
Commissioner Henry?
Here.
Commissioner Hanson?
Here.
Commissioner Pulaski?
Here.
Thank you very much. Could everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Pulaski?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Dorisio?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson? Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Tedesco?
Yes. Awards and presentations, we have none today. Public comment. Erica, do we have anyone signed up for citizens communication? We're waiting for the list.
Yeah, we're waiting for the list.
It's coming in.
We do have 6 people signed up for public comment today.
Please call the first.
Christine Nyholm.
Please state your name and address for the record, and for everyone in the audience and yourself, we allow for 3 minutes in public comment. We would ask you to respect that time limit and allow others to talk also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Christine Nyholm. I live at 13789 Franklin Street in Brighton. Firstly, I want to thank you, honorable commissioners, for the hours you and your staff have spent dealing with the important issue of oil and gas drilling in our county. Recently attending 3 COGCC rulemaking hearings, it is good to see how concerned and involved Adams County is in the formulation of regulations that will so greatly affect our daily lives, not only in Wadley Farms, but in the growing residential communities throughout the county. It is also good to know that you are concerned about oil and gas development because of what I read in the business section of Sunday's Denver Post titled, "Good Bet on DJ Basin Wattenberg Field Draws Energy Producers with Cheap, Fast, Productive Drilling." With Weld County maxing out on drilling locations, Boulder and Broomfield counties with their moratoriums, that leaves Adams County the oil industry's primary target. Adams County is wide open to new drilling. That gives Adams County great leverage to devise a plan that can work for all stakeholders, industry, the county, and its residents. We believe a plan that includes drilling no closer than 1,500 feet from homes and schools would meet the interests of all. One reason to regulate drilling 1,500 feet from homes is economic. We recently visited our son in Louisiana. We spent a day canoeing in the bayous. We came up upon abandoned oil tank batteries rusting in the canal. There were exposed pipelines and several abandoned wells. Apparently, they belonged to an oil company that went bankrupt, and the state assumed responsibility. Now that oil prices are low and there is a glut of resources, Louisiana's unemployment rate has skyrocketed. On your Adams County Economic Development webpage, it states that the county's primary industries are aerospace and aviation, healthcare and social assistance, manufacturing, transportation and warehousing, and wholesale trade. It does not mention oil and gas. The report also projects tremendous population growth in the county. If these important industries are to continue to thrive, their employees will need housing. How many will be willing to live in a neighborhood with an adjacent large-scale oil and gas facility in sight? Because of citizens' growing awareness of the risks involved in oil and gas operation, these sites are becoming more and more contentious. A plan must be in place to let residents know that the county is taking seriously their health, safety, and economic well-being. I conclude with a statement the director of the COGCC, Matt Lepore, made at the opening of yesterday's rulemaking hearing. He said, "Any agreement between operators and local government is okay by us." Adams County is in a unique position by claiming one of the last vast reserves of the DJ Basin. You can decide how this resource will be extracted. By devising a plan to drill as far away from homes as possible, a minimum of 1,500 feet, everyone will benefit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Erica, could you call the next speaker, please?
Stuart Nyholm.
Again, please state your name and address for the record.
Stuart Nyholm, 13789 Franklin Street, Brighton, Colorado. Again, I'd like to echo what Chris said. We appreciate your concern and particularly the participation of Adams County staff in our meetings as well as in terms of the COGCC. We're concerned about whether the COGCC findings or eventual rulemaking is really going to help. And one particular kind of area that we're concerned about also is Rule 20. And it doesn't look like, and it may change because there's another hearing coming up, but Rule 20 may not give standing to counties to be able to make decisions in terms of future oil and gas development. And I think that's a big one, particularly as Chris mentioned in terms of future oil and development. We have been impressed, particularly listening to other speakers, to the operators, about how to find a balance, and that's the challenge that you have with competing needs between industry, neighborhoods, and governmental agencies. And particularly if you don't have a siting tool such as would be provided by Rule 20, it leaves us out in the cold. ACTAN supports responsible oil and gas development. We know that you've been presented with a possibility or a request for a moratorium. That's really not our position because it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So how do you take the pressure off if you can't have a long-standing moratorium? You could stipulate a specific, situational specific moratorium. Would this be of help to you? Would this be useful in terms of trying to provide a planning tool in terms of how to proceed? Don't know, but that's a possibility. Would this help in terms of future planning? A question. The issue in terms of 1,500 feet really was made clear in terms of the hearing that at the last COGCC meeting, in which a major operator said they're concerned about the offset wells, and I think you have a handout to that effect, that can be affected up to 1,500 feet away from fracking or from a horizontal drilling. 1,500 feet can impact the integrity of the casings of an older well. And they brought testimony and were concerned about that issue at this last COGCC meeting. So the question is, if that could impact the integrity of an older well, what impact will that have on an established well, on water wells? And so that's why we're recommending a 1,500-foot possible setback. And would the moratorium on a situationally specific setback like this be useful to you as a planning tool? Why does this happen? Why 1,500 feet? How does this happen? Well, if you take an example of throwing a rock at a windshield, sometimes that crack will go out, but many times that crack will spread. And since we're dealing with rock layers below the surface, when that horizontal drilling occurs, the cracks spread out in a radius, and that radius can impact up to 1,500 feet away. And if your aquifer sits upon those rocks, they will then be affected by that potential horizontal drilling fracking process. So again, this is a tool possibly you may want to consider that would give you another option in addition to other kind of siting tools you're considering for an MOU. But a moratorium doesn't have to be oil and gas, drilling, fracking, the whole 9 yards. It can be situationally specific. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Erica, do you have the next speaker?
Ron Renner.
Again, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Ron Renner. I live at 1385 West 78th Circle in Thornton, or actually Denver, I guess you could call me. I'd like to address you to an issue that is not just my neighborhood, but is countywide, has this type of problem. And it's the number of residents or people living in a residence in private homes. My neighborhood is zoned R1. According to what we found out in Adams County, R1 is just simply a label. And as many people as you want can live in that home. We're a quiet neighborhood. It's a circle, 47 homes. In 4 homes on a corner, on any given weekend, there are between 25 and 40 vehicles. They double park. Last night, they parked across my neighbor's driveway, and he had a medical emergency. We had to call the sheriff's department, and while they were trying to figure out who owned the vehicle, they came out and moved it, drove around a car to move it. It's ridiculous. It snows. We don't get a snowplow, and I understand that, because we don't have those 8-inch, 1-foot snowstorms. And yet, because of the vehicles and the trees, ice forms on the street. You slip, you slide, you come around a corner. Sometimes people come around too fast. Thank God nobody's been hit yet. It's going to happen. What I'm asking you to do is look at the issue and come up with a responsible way of saying enough. Boulder, I'm not sure, city or county, has an ordinance that says in a low-density area, no more than 3 additional people, be related or not related, can live in a home. If it's a high density, it's 4. We need to start putting some teeth into things. I talked with code enforcement yesterday morning and was told that because they have to stand up in court and swear to the fact that these people are even related or unrelated, they can't do it. So therefore, there's no ordinance to enforce. We need to start putting teeth into what we're putting down as laws, period. Okay, we've had other issues in the neighborhood. Some of those are being addressed, some of them aren't. But you need to look at the ordinances you even have in effect now and put teeth into them so people can have a reasonable life. We moved to Adams County because we liked the quietness, but we didn't expect to have the problems we have, and the response is, can't do anything about it. Thank you for your time.
Commissioner Henry.
Chair, if we could have a staff member talk with this gentleman and get an address so we can address some of the concerns in his neighborhood. Thank you.
Erica, could you call the next?
Suzanne Cabral.
Could you call the next one after her so we could have them step forward and be ready?
Mark Gromley.
Mark, if you'd come up and have a seat in the front row up here. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I have been emailing.
So again, please state your name and address for the record.
Suzanne Cabral, 13575 Franklin Street. I live approximately a half a mile from the proposed Wadley Farms super site, oil well site. So I have been emailing you articles from American Journal of Public Health, Environmental Health Perspectives, the American Lung Association, which states Adams County has an F for their air quality. Denver has a D. The recent one I sent was the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences. Have any of you been able to read any of these? I haven't heard back from any of you. I've been concerned. These are all medically run research. They're peer-reviewed. It's all credible information. I'd be happy to provide any of this information, emailing it, email links to all of it, or the web links. So in the environmental health perspectives, it talks about the endocrine component of this, increasing cancers, birth defects, neural tube defects from the chemicals. Some of the other things is the oil in the air, oil and natural gas production processes also contribute to contaminants to the air, creating another potential route for exposure to humans and animals. So I'm concerned. Another thing is I'm hearing the proposed setbacks for 1,500 feet. In the proximity to natural gas wells and reported health status, results of a household survey in Washington County, Pennsylvania, where there is a lot of drilling going on. And this is in the Environmental Health Perspectives, Volume 123, Number 1, January 2015. It lists that the chemicals, including in spills during transport or chemicals in flowback water, leaks of well casings, leaks through underground fissures and rock formations, runoff from drilling sites, and disposal of fracking flowback. Studies have reported increased levels of methane in drinking water wells located 1 kilometer from natural gas well drilling, suggesting contamination of water wells from hydraulic fracturing activities. 1 kilometer equals 3,280.84 feet. That is much farther than the 1,500-foot setback that's being proposed, and much, much farther than the 500-foot setback from homes. It's irresponsible. Much more is needed as far as research and health impact on this. And I've provided you with this information, and I will continue to provide you with this information. And I will continue to advocate for our community, and I, along with several others, will hold you accountable. We do not want to allow you to put your heads in the sand and pretend that ignorance is bliss. The information is out there. What we do with it, how we move forward, not only affects our health now, but generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I do appreciate all the information that you are sending. That is, and we're very grateful on that. You know, a lot of the times we may not say that we read all of it, and physically that may be impossible because of all the other issues that we're dealing with at the same time. But it is greatly appreciated that you send that information so that we have it on time, on hand, so we can reference that information. So if anyone in the audience has that information or would like to share their information, please send that information. As I said before, there's a lot of information to read. We may not be able to get to it right away, but we do hold on to it and we do use it as reference in certain cases. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Erica, could you please call the next?
I have one other thing to say, if I may.
I'm sorry, ma'am. We have public comment and we have to keep moving. We have a very, very long day today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Mark Gormley, 13650 Claremont Court in Thornton. I am here to reiterate what Suzanne just said, basically, and I have more information for you. An entire report from Food and Water Watch titled "The Urgent Case for a Ban on Fracking." And while ACTAN proposes responsible drilling, I think that the process known as hydraulic fracturing is irresponsible. And I think it needs to be banned in its entirety. If you can get the oil and gas out of the earth with a straw, if it comes up easily, I get it. We need to use it, take it out for now until we can move to renewables. I've written a memo to each one of you. I'll provide this for you to read.
You can hand it over to the staff.
I want to read from it first.
Okay.
Okay, so since I do better in writing than reading, or than speaking, I'm just going to read this. I'm requesting that a moratorium on hydraulic fracturing be put in place in all of Adams County in order to provide the time necessary for a detailed study by the county and its cities on the effects of hydraulic fracturing and their long-term impacts on our environment and the county's citizens. And I'll just also add here that the effects can be felt within a 10-mile radius. 10 miles from the fumes that emanate from an oil and gas site. Just 3,000 feet isn't even adequate. The oil and gas, the methane, and all the chemicals that leach out from a site can be felt and factor into your health in a 10-mile radius. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Erica, could you please call the next?
The next
Speaker.
two citizens signed up have comments regarding today's land use hearings.
Okay, then we'll hold off on their comments until we address the land use cases. Is there anyone in the audience that has public comment that they did not sign up for that they would like to give at this time that does not fall in regards to the land use cases? Seeing none, elected officials, comments, communications? Anyone? Seeing none, consent calendar. Do I have a motion for consent calendar?
So moved.
I'd second that for 25. I'd second that for the 25 listed issues. We almost made it through Z.
Thank you.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Pulaski,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Odericio, Commissioner Tedesco.
Yes. Thank you very much. New business, County Manager Todd Leopold.
Yes, our first item this morning is a resolution accepting a proposal and awarding an agreement to Centerline Solutions LLC for installation and maintenance of a neutral host active distribution antenna system at the Government Center. Ed Finger, our Deputy County Manager, will be discussing that.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ed Finger. As the agenda item before you presents, and as we all know well, there's inadequate cell phone coverage in the Government Center.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Team of county staff, through the purchasing department, issued an RFP to address this. We had a number of respondents, as described in here, the county recommends to you. The group that was scored as the best value. It was an average cost. It was certainly a project plan and experience factor, a maintenance program and cost built into the evaluation criteria here. Quite a range of cost, average cost about $400,000. The recommended vendor was not the lowest, but was near to the lowest and was scored as the best value. The recommended vendor has done similar installations at Denver International Airport and Coors Field. The goal here is that we're going to get 3 bars or more on handheld devices for 3G, 4G, LTE throughout the Government Center and all the nooks and crannies. And I'll tell you the primary limiting factor in this, and part of what we experience in addition to this building that doesn't propagate signal well, is the distance from cell towers. But we're going to maximize available cell coverage, and it's going to be significantly better. We propose that this will actually be part of the next budget amendment if this is approved, and we'll begin work after that. We expect a 12 to 15-week timeline of project implementation, so hopefully this is up and going in the spring if it's approved.
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Hanson.
The average score for this company was 83.5. The second, I think if I'm looking at it correctly, the second highest, which was ICC Wireless Interface Communications in Inglewood, was 82.5, so there's a 1-point difference between the two. The other difference between the two is $32,000 more expensive for the one that you're recommending.
Correct.
So, when you look at the evaluation scores, and actually 2 of the evaluators rated one higher and 2 rated the other higher. So, I mean, it's really close ultimately, right? So what is the deciding factor at that point?
So as a process, what we do for each and every one of these RFPs, the RFPs are submitted through the purchasing department. The purchasing department distributes them to the evaluation team. The evaluation team reads them, evaluates them, and then gets together as a group. And the purpose of that meeting as a group is not to dictate score, not to change score through any sort of pressure or coercion, but to have group conversation about observations, having read the RFPs, et cetera. In this particular case, we did a couple of things that are optional in the RFP process. One of them is that we actually withheld cost data until after we had done all of the qualitative criteria so that the cost didn't influence the qualitative criteria. Then we In a formula-based way, Commissioner, you'll see actually applied a straight cost score, and I am going to get to your answer. Then we narrowed down the finalists because there were 7 submitters. We brought in the finalists and did in-person interviews about project plan, expectation, experience with the carriers. Some of them had made, including the one we recommend here, effort to reach out to carriers to evaluate, how the solution would work for a given carrier. I tell you that Centerline scored higher than ICC in experience on average, and in their maintenance plan, and in their responsiveness to the RFP, while scoring lower slightly in the project plan and, of course, in fees, which was a formula-based competition, or assignment of score. You correctly said it was very competitive, and there was a lot of conversation among the RFP scoring group about individual scores, about thoughts, and I would just suggest that the scores that landed there landed after thorough discussion and evaluation and are representative of the evaluation team's opinions.
So I can read the scores. So you just regurgitated essentially what was in front of me. I already knew that. I'm really looking for something more specific than that, because what I don't understand is that, let's just take evaluator number 3 on the ICC wireless, contract. So you've got that person scored the ongoing maintenance at a 0 on a 5 scale. That would lead me to believe that there was no maintenance at all associated with that contract, while evaluator 2 gave it a 5, a perfect score. I mean, 0 seems to me to be an absence of maintenance. I don't understand. Is there a difference in maintenance between the two, and what is it?
There were a difference in the maintenance responses. I don't have those available. We could bring them back next week and talk about them in detail.
Could we have Kevin Beach come up and answer some of these questions maybe, I think, or someone from IT that could give us more specifics on this?
We can, but I want to be clear that I was on the RFP in the meetings too. So Kevin and I were in there with other folks, and I don't know that Kevin has any more intimate knowledge about each of the 4. The reason I answered the way I did is because you're right. Some of the evaluators scored one company higher, some scored the other higher. I don't think there is a clear answer other than on average across all of those criteria, the group came to a higher scoring conclusion on one versus the other. There are 0s in both groups scoring, in both providers scoring, where when you look at pure evaluators.
Actually, well, yeah, there's 1 0.
Yep.
There was 1 0 from evaluator 1 for neutral host, whatever, sorry. On a 0 on responsiveness to RFP, and then another out of 20 points, but he got 15, 18, and 18 on the others, and so you got 0 on responsiveness to RFP, which means they didn't respond to the RFP, but then the other 3 evaluators gave them relatively high marks. So I just don't, I don't understand the wide range of differences here between the two.
And Kevin, if you,
Beach,
yeah, I was gonna
IT
say-
Director. So I cannot address the maintenance variation. The
Okay.
biggest driving decision between ICC and Centerline, and I don't want to bore you with too much detail, but 6 of the 7 vendors that responded proposed antennas on the roof. ICC proposed T1 feed. None of the other vendors proposed that. And we had specified that we wanted antennas on the roof. So the 0 was because they did not respond to the RFP in an
The
appropriate
0
manner.
was because they didn't put antennas on the roof.
Correct.
Interesting. What's the
If-
difference, in the, you'll have to explain to me the difference in the technology between the two.
Here's what I'll say is if we put in T1 feeds for each vendor, it's going to drive the cost up roughly $30,000 per year for those T1 costs.
Well, I understand that, but if they weren't going to put an antenna on the roof, then how were they going to deliver the service?
They were going to feed it via T1.
And broadcast it how?
The broadcast will be the same throughout the building. All
Okay.
7 vendors had the same solution.
Right.
It's the feed to the
Oh,
system.
in
Sorry,
other
I wasn't
words,
clear on that.
the cell feed would be coming through the building.
Correct.
T1, as opposed to coming through a cell tower on the roof.
Correct. I don't want to say cell tower, it won't be a cell tower,
Ce-
but it'll be a
antenna.
dish picking up the feed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So ICC wanted nothing on the roof and just wanted T1s coming in, $30,000 per year. The other 6 vendors all did.
So ultimately, it's going to cost us more if we go with that solution on an annual basis because of the T1.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's That answers my question. Thank you.
Can you do me a favor?
Yes,
And
sir.
please explain to the audience that doesn't know what T1 is, what a T1 is.
It's basically a large pipe coming in from the telco. So if you have in the old days, we had a
Okay,
modem at home.
You can't answer an acronym with an acronym, so please dumb it down for everybody, especially me.
People
Okay.
know about DSL lines coming into their house.
again.
That's another acronym, but it's basically, it's a data feed. It's a dedicated pipe for data feed.
Okay.
Data being for the computers.
So in layman's term, in maybe language that I can understand, it's a hardwire versus something that travels by radio wave through the air.
Yes, it can be fiber instead
Thank
of
you
copper.
very
but-
much. We need to work on
You're
that.
showing your age, Commissioner Tedesco.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? No other questions? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make comment on this at this time?
Should have been PowerPoint.
Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Kevin did well.
Move to approve and award the contract to, was it Centerline? Is that the one we're doing? Yeah.
Second.
Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Pulaski,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Dorisio, Commissioner Tedesco.
Yes, thank you very much. Next case?
Thank you. Our next item is a resolution approving Addendum 2 to the agreement between Adams County and URS Corporation, adding construction observation services to the agreement for the Henderson Road Bridge over the South Platte Micropiles project for the Transportation Department. Jeff Maxwell, Transportation Directors, here.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is for the Henderson Road Bridge improvements that we talked about last month. I'll just give you a brief summary of what we talked about, just for the public's knowledge. Henderson Road is currently load restricted right now, and our consultant, URS Corporation, they're the design engineers on the projects. They've recommended that we install micropiles to stabilize the bridge. We awarded the design consultants contract back in 2014, and we awarded construction last month to Myers & Sons to get the construction started. We'd like to engage URS to provide engineering design clarification and engineering assistance during construction to make sure their plans are installed the way that they designed them to be installed. For that, they've asked for an addendum to their contract for $20,000 and, $20,520, and that's what we're requesting today.
Well, that was short.
I'm sorry, URS is the name of the company.
Thank you. We tend to get into a habit of using acronyms, and what we don't realize is that there's a lot of people that don't understand what those acronyms mean. So thank you, I appreciate that.
I wasn't being facetious, I meant that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff? No questions for staff. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make comment on this subject at this time? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of Addendum 2 to agreement between Adams County and URS Corporation, adding construction observation services to the agreement for the Henderson Road Bridge over the South Platte River Micropiles project for the Transportation Department.
Second.
Yes. I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson, Commissioner O'Dorisio,
Yes.
Commissioner Tedesco.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next.
Last item is our first presentation and reading of the 2016 preliminary budget. Nancy Duncan, our budget supervisor, will be walking through this for you with a follow-up of any public comment that may need necessary leading up to the adoption of next week.
Hi, Commissioners. I'm Nancy Duncan. I'm the Budget Supervisor for Adams County. The budget staff, Teresa Wilson, Pernell Olson, Raylene Taylor, Todd Leopold, the County Manager, and I have met with you on several study sessions, and we've implemented the changes to the budget that you've recommended. We are here today to present the first reading of the preliminary budget, incorporating the changes you've suggested, and to allow for public comment. The first thing I would like to present are the 2016 budget priorities. We wanted to invest in our core infrastructure while addressing the needs while addressing the needs based on the continued growth of the county. We wanted to maintain structural balance for all county funds. We wanted to incorporate a multi-year capital improvement plan into the budget process. We wanted to provide a competitive compensation and benefits plan for employee retention and attraction. And lastly, we wanted to align the 2016 recommended operational business cases and CIP projects to the Board of County Commissioners' strategic goals. This next slide shows the preliminary revenues. We are showing an increase of $16 million in property tax, which is a 12.7% increase. Sales and specific ownership tax have also increased with a recovering economy. Total revenues, excluding transfers, have increased by 11.9%. The total revenue for the 2016 budget is proposed at $447,159,426. Total expenditures, less transfers, have increased 1.3% overall. The total budget, including transfers and modifications, is $451,666,634. The next slide will show the changes we have made to the preliminary 2016 budget since the public hearing on October the 13th. There have been several changes to the 2016 preliminary revenue since we presented to you on October the 13th. The ballot measure regarding DIA passed in November. This means Adams County will recognize an additional $10 million in revenue, but will also see a $10 million additional expenditure and payments to the participating jurisdictions. Based on trend analysis, we have estimated that we will be receiving an additional $750,000 in traffic impact fee revenue. There was a reduction in airport grant funding, but we saw increases in the revenue for the county attorney's office for services to human services and in the DA's office revenue for service needs to Broomfield. On the expenditure side, we've recommended additional capital projects, including $5.5 million for a new community corrections building and $1 million to start on a new animal shelter. We've also recommended approval of the Sheriff's Office pay plan, which increases the budget $1.9 million. We've added $1.5 million to the Transportation Department for drainage maintenance projects. And since the preliminary budget presentation, Adams County has also gone out for certificates of participation. This will increase, and these are for the new Human Services Center. This will increase our 2016 debt payment by $1.4 million, which has been added to the budget for 2016. $193,000 was added to the budget for the United Power Agreement, which was approved in an earlier public hearing. This agreement also has $148,000 in offsetting revenue. We moved the Community Development Block Grant Manager's salary and benefits to the general fund. This will allow for more program dollars within this grant. We updated the budget to reflect a modification in airport projects, which corresponds with having less airport grant revenue. We also moved the build-out of the Justice Center from the general fund to the Capital Facilities Fund. We are recommending 16.25 new positions for 2016. Also included on this slide is a transfer of 4 public trustee positions to the animal shelter. The public trustee's office has seen a decrease in service needs, while the animal shelter has seen an increase in service needs. This allows for a transfer of unfilled FTE within the general fund instead of an increase of FTE overall in the general fund. The next slide shows the additions to or use of fund balance for each fund. The preliminary budget for 2016 is $451,666,364, with $39.3 million in CIP projects. The overall use of fund balance for the county is $4.5 million. The budget for the general fund is $184,123,986. $994. The general fund balance is growing by $1.4 million. The capital project amount in the general fund is $7.3 million. The key dates we have remaining are today, December 8th. We have a study session with you later this afternoon to answer any remaining questions. Today's first reading was to allow for any public comment on the modifications we have made on the preliminary budget. Next Tuesday, December 15th, we will be presenting the resolutions for the adoption of the 2016 budget, as well as the mill levy certification resolution. Thanks very much for your time today, and do you have any questions?
Commissioners, do we have any questions? Commissioner Hanson.
The $10 million payment that's coming from Denver, from DIA, we had some discussion about how that was going to be, recognized. And I know a lot of that is going out because of payments to municipalities. Where is that, currently in the budget, and how is that being recognized?
We have a transfer going from the airport fund, or the DIA noise mitigation fund, and the transfer is going into the general fund. Is a transfer of $3.1 million is our portion of that.
Right.
The 6.8 will be distributed to the other jurisdictions.
So that $3.2 million is part of the general fund?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Odorizio.
You gave a long list of some of the other long-term or capital improvements or investments that we're making. I did not see on the list, or I missed it, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, the mental health facility in the jail.
Because that had not changed from the preliminary budget, it wasn't a change, so I didn't bring it up. But it is in the general fund for $3.2 million.
Okay, thank you.
Could you please explain where the public can go to review of this preliminary budget?
We have copies of it in the budget office today. We haven't put it out on the internet website yet, but we can, and we can do that later this afternoon after we meet.
Okay. Commissioners, are there other questions? County Manager, you had a...
And also to clarify, you can also get, the preliminary budget was presented in October. It's actually on the county's website under the budget office, so you can receive that in addition to what you're seeing up here with the changes that have been made up to this point.
So the changes, though, are the only thing that aren't on the website at this time?
That is correct.
And you'll have the changes on...
Yes, just the changes.
Today?
That's correct.
Right? Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Commissioners, any other questions? Do we have public comment on the county budget? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make comment on the county budget? Seeing none. Commissioners, well, we don't need a motion, do we? Okay, and we will move on to our next item. Is it? I got lost.
I think that's me, Commissioners.
County Attorney Heidi Miller.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have one executive session noticed on your agenda today, and that is a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 246402 4B and E for the purpose of receiving legal advice and negotiation discussions regarding memorandums of understanding for oil and gas applications. And then I would also ask that if time allows, we add to that executive session a brief discussion pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 246402 4B for the purpose of receiving legal advice regarding a potential funding issue in the budget.
Commissioners, are we okay with that? Do we have a motion?
I'd move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Pulaski?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson? Commissioner Odorizio?
Yes.
Commissioner Tedesco?
Yes. Seeing no further business, we will recess for 5 minutes, so we will come back at 10:20 and resume with land use hearings. We are adjourned.